Welcome back to Kicking It with KO in partnership with Jackson Ultima. I'm so excited to be joined by the ever-optimistic Jason Brown.
We'll just start from the very beginning. So how did you start skating?
So I began skating when I was about 5 years old. My older sister started skating because she was invited to a skating birthday party. And so my parents put her in lessons just so that she would know how to skate for this party. It had nothing to do with anything about there was this love for the sport or anything like that. It was just like my parents didn't want to drop their kid off at this party without knowing how to skate. They felt like bad parents if they did that. So they put her in lessons, and those lessons led to an ice show at the end of the year ice show. And I went to the ice show to cheer on my sister, and I just fell in love. And I was like, oh my gosh, mom and dad, that's what I want to do. I want to be in the ice show. I want to do that. Just seeing people perform and the lights and the costumes drew me right in. And I've never stopped. That pure love of performance has not stopped to this day.
I am currently looking at your Instagram, and
oh my gosh.
every single picture you're smiling. There's a few pictures actually in my neighborhood, and I'm like, hey, I'm right here.
Oh my gosh.
And every time I've ever talked to you, you're laughing or smiling or being completely positive. So does that come naturally, or are you just a naturally positive human?
I definitely think I am a positive person. I mean, I think it comes from my parents. I always laugh when people meet my mom. They're like, oh my God, I see where you got your positivity from. And then they meet my dad and they're like, oh, we thought your mom was positive. My dad is on a whole nother level. So I'm really, really fortunate in that sense. My parents they put so much in perspective, and they are always see the glass half full. They're just very positive, optimistic people. So I definitely think that there's part of that for sure. But as far as just also I've on a personal note, I've definitely because of the sport and and I've gone to sports psychologists, or I've seen a sports psychologist and kind of gone to therapy since I was 10 years old. And I do think that having that communication and having that open communication where you can talk about your feelings has also just helped me gain a lot of perspective and open up and feel good about all those imperfections and those flaws and not internalize them. And so I think that's also helped a lot as far as, seeing things on a more optimistic side.
Also going through your Instagram is beautiful. I get amazed by stuff. I see you do so much volunteer work. You've done stuff with the Ronald McDonald House. How did that begin?
Always loved giving back, and I always loved giving back to the community that I'm in or that I'm involved in. And I think that there's so many outreach opportunities that we can all take part in, and I think it's so important. And that's another thing that I was a huge thing that I was brought up learning, and that whole idea of giving back and paying it forward has always been ingrained into me and the way I was raised. And I think for our sport, one of the awesome parts about our sport is that when we're done competing, people throw stuffed animals and whatever onto the ice, as you're well aware. And I really wanted to do something that I could get the fans involved and then give back to the specifically the community that I was skating in. And make it a bit more personal for the fans as well. And so we were looking at different organizations, and the Ronald McDonald House is one of those organizations that is global. It's, everywhere around the world. And a big part of the sport is people throw stuffed animals on the ice. And whenever we travel, sometimes the toughest part is you can't bring them all back home. You wish you had the say, so you don't. So, and I wanted to, get them involved in a personal way. And so we paired up with the Ronald McDonald House. And so each city that I compete in internationally, we donate those stuffed animals to. So it's been really, really amazing. And the fans have been really receptive. And I kind of document those experiences to bring them along with it, so they see where their contribution is going. And it's been amazing to meet the families at the Ronald McDonald House and hear their stories. And it's just another kind of incredible way to gain perspective, to see the world and meet different people from around the world. And, you know, it definitely puts, you know, a bad skate in perspective, and it definitely has put a smile on my face. And it really, their stories of perseverance and courage and hope are just so inspiring, that it motivates me to just keep being better and better. And
so what is something that like is your highlight of your skating career?
I think when I look back, I think one of my biggest and most favorite moments was actually at World Team Trophy. When I finished skating, and everyone from all the different countries came into the kiss and cry and cheered me on as I got my scores. And I think that for me was just such a moment, because I was surrounded by all these people that I looked up to and that I aspired to be like, and I, you know, just had watched on TV for years prior. And I was just so grateful to be in the competition with them. And then the fact that they were in the kiss and cry with me, it was very emotional, and it was very exciting. And I think that it just shows how incredible the skating community is and supportive of each other.
That's incredible. And I think from an individual athlete perspective, those team events, I think, mean so much more to us. So that was a highlight. What other goals do you have? You've already accomplished so much.
One, I want to land a quad in competition. I want it on my protocol sheet. I want to have my pluses. I know I can do it. And I think that that's a huge goal. I know I'm capable of it, and I do it every day. And so it's just getting it that one time when you perform it to, when it counts. And so I think that's a huge goal. I do not want to walk away or retire from the sport until I have a quad landed on that protocol sheet. It's there because I'm capable. And then I want to get back on the Olympic team. So, I was so fortunate to be on the US team in 2014 and be there with you, which was incredible. And so, and 2018 was a bit of a rocky year for me, but I'm really, really determined to get back on that Olympic team next year. So that is another huge goal that I have. I want to be in Beijing.
I remember 2014, I was so new to everything that I was like, I don't know anyone. And then you like came across me, I was like, oh, I know him. We went to Junior Worlds together. So this year has been just a year.
Perfect example, just a year. Exactly.
You've had the opportunity to compete, which is incredible. And you're training here in Toronto. Like, what's it all been like? How's your year been?
Yeah, it's been bizarre. I mean, I think like anyone, I think there has been ups and downs. This year has not been easy. It's not been simple. It's definitely thrown everyone, a bit of a loop. But I do think that one of the biggest things that I've learned is just like to take each day as it comes. I think at the beginning of the pandemic, you kept feeling like things were getting taken away, or like things were going to be normal, and then they weren't. And then you're like, oh, the rinks are open, oh, they're closed. Oh, the gyms are open, they're closed. And I think you keep getting in these rhythms. And I think as athletes, we're so used to getting into our rhythm. And like, we know the rhythm of the season. We know the rhythm of our training. We know, if you have a rhythm in the gym, and suddenly that's all stripped away. And you're like, whoa, I've been doing this for 20 plus years. And suddenly you're like, wait, I have no access to a gym. I was like, wait, what? And I know it's such a minor thing in the scheme of things, but as athletes, we're just so accustomed to that consistency. And so for me, it was really just finding that new normal, but not, and at the beginning, I think I tried to find it in ways where it was, what was available. And then but then it was still these ups and downs of, Skate Canada was going to happen, and then it was canceled. And then, we even went through a period in the winter where the gyms were starting to open and the restrictions were getting, were easing up. And then I was like, oh, we backpedaled. And so I think for me, it was just trying to figure out how can I just with what I got, keep it consistent, find a pattern. And I think that we've done a pretty good job with that and trying to find, that balance. I feel very fortunate that the rink's been able to stay open for the elite athletes. so sad that we don't get to see all the younger skaters right now, because I know how difficult that is. But so I do feel very fortunate that we've been able to skate and been able to train, and then to have that opportunity at the US Championships to compete. It definitely gave that feeling of a little beacon of hope of like, okay, this is possible. Like, okay, like this is strange. There's no audience, but like I still get to be there and I still get to compete. And you were able to see how they did it with all the COVID protocols, and we did really feel very safe in the bubble. So it makes, you know, even after that experience, it was like, okay, Worlds is possible.
With like the continuous closures and unknowns and stuff like that, did you go back to the States, or did you want to go home, or what kept you here to train?
Yeah, you know, for in all honesty, it really was because of all the unknown of getting back to Canada that I did not go home. So I went home at the beginning of COVID, or like, you know, when Worlds was canceled, the Montreal Worlds was canceled. So I went home and I came back to Canada at the end of June. And then I was in Canada from the end of June all the way until the US Championships. So yes, I would have loved to go home. I'm very, you know, even if it was just for a weekend, but you know, right now with the restrictions, we'd have to quarantine for 2 weeks on the return. So it just, you know, it's difficult to find that right time to take that break, and to risk not being able to re-enter Canada.
Will you be going home after the World Championships?
I will be going home. I have a flight from Sweden to Chicago, so I'm very excited about that. Excited to see my family.
So lastly, what is your advice for young skaters?
I would have to say the love for the sport has to drive you. I mean, I think there's one thing that I've learned, and I think, you know, even being around so many different athletes, not only in skating, but in all other sports, you see this common denominator of just like the passion and the love for the sport that you're in, and it drives you, and it's the motivating factor. And I think that if you love the sport, no matter if you're from a small town, if you're from a big city, you can make it work and you can find your own path. And I think the other kind of, then the next kind of piece of that is that there's no one path to success, and success looks very different for everyone. And so I would just tell, you know, younger skaters that, like, take that love and don't think that like you have to do A, B, C, D to get to Z. Like, know that every path to wherever you want to go is different, and you can create it in your own way. And it's not going to be linear. You're going to have a lot of ups and downs, and you're going to have a lot of great moments and moments you wish you don't ever have to relive. But it's all part of, you know, the process, and you're going to learn from each setback and each success, and just kind of be open to wherever, you know, the sport takes you.
That's amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh my God, no, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
You're always a nice, bright, shining light. So I want to wish you the best of luck with your second competition of the season.
Thank you so much.